Hi, my name is Jim Reppond, and this is Seattle Real Estate Chat. Welcome today. I work for Coldwell Banker Danforth in Seattle, Washington, and we have a couple of guest speakers today. My co-host is Rhonda Porter, who's a mortgage broker here in town. Rhonda, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, thanks, Jim. I'm Rhonda Porter. I'm a licensed loan officer at Mortgage Master Service Corporation and author of the Mortgage Porter blog.
Also joining us today as a guest speaker is Sam Debord, who is a coworker of mine at Coldwell Banker Danforth, but also co-owner of Seattle Homes, and I think is a current director of Washington Realtors. Is that right, Sam?
Oh, that's right. Thanks for having me on, Jim. Good to see you somewhere besides the office. Yes, I'm director with Seattle, King County, and Washington Realtors, and in my spare time, we sell a little real estate on our team as well.
I think more than a little, but that's nice to be modest. And then I've also got Teresa Boardman here today, who is she has a company in St. Paul. I forget the name of it that you work at. You're a contributing columnist on Inman, which is an article that I saw on this whole coming soon Zillow thing that I thought was quite informing, and I thought you'd be a great guest. But Teresa, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and your background there?
I'm Teresa Boardman, St. Paul Home Realty, author of the St. Paul Real Estate blog, and yes, I'm a columnist for Inman News, and I actually sell some real estate too.
Well, and that's great. That's kind of where I wanted to go today with this coming soon thing, is the realtor's perspective. I'm not sure that buyers and sellers would be as involved enough to have a really strong formed opinion. I'm sure there are a lot of pundits that do, and I did ask someone from Zillow if they would like to participate today, and it was a short notice. It was yesterday, and apparently they could not find someone who was available, so they didn't get back to me. So while this may be an uncomfortable seat for them to take because of the amount of people who feel this is maybe not a good idea, I think it's a great discussion topic, and if they're going to move forward with it, we have to at least discuss these things. So let's just jump right in. Maybe a lot of you, maybe a few of you, have seen this new feature called Coming Soon from Zillow. I believe it got enacted or went live about a month ago in certain markets where it's allowed. There's a number of places where MLSs have regulations that don't allow it for various reasons, and but the places that did allow it, I think it went live. Does anybody have any more information about that than that I just shared?
That's pretty much the start of it. I think there's a lot more talk than action so far on it, but it's a big topic.
Right. So here is the controversy. It is and I'll put the link up here in the show notes and make it on the live chat as well, where there's a little video about it. But it's basically a place where realtors can go and pre-market their listings before they hit the MLS, put it up on Zillow, and put information, pictures, stuff like that. They can garner offers in advance to save, to give it when it becomes and they can talk to different buyers. They will be the only contact point for potential buyers who have an interest in this property before it's cooperatively offered with the MLSs, which is what MLSs are all about, is cooperating brokers. So it puts the listing agent in a position of probably, if not all the time, the vast majority of the time, of becoming a dual agent out of just the nature of that. We call those pocket listings. Sam, why don't you jump in here? You have some strong comments on this on several blogs, and what are your thoughts on it, and what do you think that Zillow is trying to accomplish here?
Sure. I mean, I think the big thing to say is, starting out, this is not something where those of us who are concerned with it are concerned with technology or new things that Zillow is doing. Zillow does a lot of really interesting things, and new tech companies do all the time. When you're inside the industry, though, you see the things a lot of consumers don't see. And we know simple things like supply and demand, the way that sellers get the best prices for their homes. It's always very clear when you look at the stats. You look at the number one and two things that they use. It's the internet and it's agents, and that's 90% of buyers. So when we look at a product like this, can Zillow do it? Absolutely. Their job is to be marketers, and they're very good at it. And it's more of a concern that we want people in the industry to understand what's best for consumers, not just what's best for advertising. So we see this as limited exposure. This is a way, as you said, to likely sell a lot of properties before they hit the MLS. And when the number 1 and 2 things consumers use to find homes are the internet and their agents, you're basically cutting one of those 2 things out. There's a lot of people talking about this just being coming soon, it'll get on the MLS, and that is true in a lot of cases, but there's no way for a marketing company like Zillow to really regulate that and make sure that these properties do make it to the MLS. And at the end of the day, homes will be sold, sellers will get less than what they should have gotten because, frankly, it's easier, and the agents in some cases will make more money that way. And agents don't like to hear that because most agents are very good at their jobs. But if you sat on any disciplinary boards, you know that quite a few are not, and we don't want to create shortcuts that hurt sellers. And in the end, that's what this is about, is how well we serve our consumers.
Now, Teresa, in your blog, it was kind of interesting. You were talking about how this was so 2001-ish, something that has been, because pocket listings have been around for a long time, but that this was something that was kind of a dated concept anyway. Sounded like to me you didn't really think it had much of a chance of even taking off because people don't do that much anymore. Is that right?
Well, let's keep in mind that real estate is local, and my market might be completely different than your market. My comments is that it was a kind of a 2012 marketing strategy that I wasn't really interested in, because last year and the year before, the inventory was really tight. It's still kind of tight, but it's nothing like it was, say, a year ago. So when it was really tight, these agents went around putting up coming soon signs in front of listings and advertising them. They have internal pre-MLSs. And so, you know, the big companies in town, they'd get these listings and they'd market it to their clients only, you know, and the rest of us couldn't even get into it. Well, you know what? I remember that too. I mean, it caused some hard feelings. But right now, this whole coming soon thing, to me, just sounds like a sleazy come-on. I mean, it is a way for agents to generate leads, to hog a listing. I don't know, to me it's just a sleazy come-on, and in my market it looks ridiculous. Nobody's going to be impressed by a coming soon listing. It's like, it's hard to explain. It's like if you had a really hard house to sell and you put a sign in front of it saying, hurry, hurry, this is only going to be, you know, it's going to be sold today, people would laugh at you. It's the same thing.
So in your market then, they do allow pocket listings and for brokers to pre-advertise? No.
Yes and no. We have a system that, you know, and I'm actually on our MLS committee, but we have to have the seller sign a withhold from the MLS before we can advertise it. So if I had a seller sign something saying to withhold their listing from the MLS for a few weeks, I could turn around and advertise it on Zillow as a coming soon listing. Agents have all kinds of reasons, but I call them excuses, for not putting a listing right on the market. Oh, I don't have measurements yet. Oh, I need pictures. It's as if they're so afraid that the sellers won't sign the listing contract with them that they'll get it signed as soon as they can and then worry about how to actually get it on the MLS, and this is supposed to be okay. Well, it's not okay. It's just, you know, it's another way that agents could take advantage of, you know, not showing a listing to the whole market. But what's going to happen is if you're in a market that's, picture this going on in 2008 or 9. In our market, we couldn't give away a house in 2008 or 9. I just can't imagine how coming soon this latest new thing is going to look when things, you know, get down to a more normal real estate market.
Yeah, that's true. This definitely lends itself to when the market is sizzling hot. Right. In our particular market, we don't have the ability to do any kind of pre-marketing or pocket listings. We're strictly prohibited from having any kind of discussions with potential buyers about upcoming properties, and in fact, even to other agents. So, and it's gotten, as Sam knows, a lot more tight around that. in the last little while. But I want to throw something out, and maybe Sam, you might be the best one to answer this, and Rhonda, your thoughts too. We do have the ability in our MLS to take a listing, get a letter from the seller that says no showings and key box not on it until Sunday open house 4 or 5 days from now, which in effect is like a pocket listing or a pre-listing marketing because everybody can see it on the MLS, they just can't get in. So wondering how is that different? Because in some ways we're calling this a tomato and that a tomato. What do you think, Sam?
No, well, you're exactly right, and that's actually the reason why coming soon is somewhat of a gimmick in a way. And not every MLS is the same, but there are really two ways that you can do everything that an agent who wants to use a coming soon listing can do within the MLS. So as you said, you can get a letter from the seller, put it on the MLS, and say no showings for 2 weeks. If you want to build excitement, you want to build momentum, then file that letter for the seller. But you're not just getting internet exposure then, you're getting agent exposure. And again, most clients are working with an agent, and whether they find it themselves or their agent finds it, you're accessing more demand for your sellers. And we all know that's how prices get driven up. That's how sellers get the best price, is by having the biggest market. So either you do that or you just delay offers.
Okay,
that's happening a lot.
That kind of sort of sets in my mind the whole motive behind this for Zillow, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to drive eyeballs to their website first.
Sure,
by making
absolutely.
this be sort of the place to go to find that information, versus now you can get that information on the MLS if the agent has chosen to set that up that way for pre-marketing.
Absolutely, and that'll go right across to Zillow through syndication. Go ahead,
Rhonda.
Oh, and it's also, to me, it seems about Zillow selling, getting more agents to sign on to become premier agents, because they're offering this just to their premier agents. So it's just, a moneymaker possibly for Zillow too.
Right. I think not only do they have to be premier agents, but the brokerages or the MLSs have to be giving a direct feed to them, which is something they're trying really hard to get set up, because some brokerages and some MLSs now are starting to pull back from that kind of syndication, thinking that they're losing control of some of the data they didn't really mean to do. So I can see their motivation.
Zillow still has, and Zillow still has the Make Me Move system too, don't they? Where a seller can, on their own, not list their property and just say, "I'll sell my house for $2 bazillion" if somebody wants to really buy it.
That's correct, but that does no agent involvement in it. That's totally the seller directly with Zillow, and we'll never get involved with that because we don't have any contract or interest in that. But where do you think this is? Go ahead.
No, sorry, Jim. I think you hit it on the head in terms of motivation. Zillow should be looking for more market share, for more eyeballs, for being the individual listing input point, and that's what they're looking for. And if I were their shareholders, I'd want them to do that too. But that's one of the really interesting things in terms of the data online is when that becomes the first point of input before it makes it to the MLS. Is it starting to create, and people want to talk about Zillow becoming a national MLS, and it really doesn't look like there's plans for that. That's what the executives say. And we'll just say for now that that's not the plan. But it is creating more of basically a paid-for private pocket listing market. And if you're a premier agent and your brokerage is signed on with the feed, whatever it happens to be, you've got another little pocket listing group in one location with only that set of eyeballs. And it always just comes down to there are options in the MLS to do all the things people want to do to build that momentum. This is just a way to do it outside of the MLS without agent exposure.
And to be fair, I think that the realtors and real estate agents also have the same dirty secret motivation, and that is dual agency.
Sure.
Their whole purpose here in pre-marketing is obviously, there's no way you can slice it or dice it that there's less exposure by doing this if the seller ends up taking an offer from one of these pre-listing things. Right. And therefore is at a disadvantage and very possibly a lower price than they should have gotten, which is not in their best interest, and yet it's the listing agent who's probably doing the buying side, getting the better benefit, but not to the advantage of the client. So there's in my mind there's a negative motivation on both. I mean, it's not negative for Zillow to want more eyeballs, but I think it's negative for the consumer to end up where, like you said, that becomes the portal of choice, but it only has limited amount of properties, and they don't even know that. So
I like to call it a sleazy gimmick.
No cutting corners for Teresa.
It doesn't help. I mean, it doesn't help the seller. And I've listened to agents market it to the seller. You know, we're going to pre-sell, we're going to pre-list, and make it sound all good. But it's a sleazy gimmick. It's totally centered around the agent, not around the buyer or the seller.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point too, because we see that, and a consumer doesn't often hear that. They only talk to one or two agents. They may just get that speech, and I've told other agents I could convince sellers to do any of these sort of tactics very easily, because that's what we do. We're salespeople, but it wouldn't be good for them, and that's really the problem. Is we see it all the time, especially when we talk to other agents or sellers who have heard this pitch, but most consumers only talk to one or two people, and they don't realize it.
Well, we need to educate consumers. I mean, I think, consumers are educating themselves, but, I guess they get a lot of bad education probably from agents too. But, I mean, most of the stuff that we do works because consumers aren't educated. I mean, you start right with the website. We have the website. It's got everybody's listings on it. They appear to be our own listings. We use them as bait to attract consumers. Well, that's what we do. That's probably one of the more harmless things we do. But a lot of our practices in the industry are deceptive, and we stop noticing how deceptive they are until something like this comes up. I mean, this is obviously deceptive, or at least to the sellers.
So I'm thinking that this may actually turn out to be a good thing in terms of us having discussions among other brokers and among the public about some of the things that go on behind the door, a little bit more transparency about how we do our business, how we get our clients, and how we represent them, and what are the things that we're trying to watch out for and not have them engage in, something like this, in order for them to get a better price for their home and have better exposure. So maybe it'll end up being a good thing. But
we need to educate them on what dual agency is. I mean, I got an earful from an unhappy seller yesterday working with a large firm, and she just really felt that they did everything in their power to keep the listing in-house. And she found me, believe it or not, through my blog, because I'd written all these articles about dual agency aimed at educating consumers. And I think, all of us, if we did more of that, would at least help sellers make better decisions.
Yeah, and it may be the discussion we need to have at a national level. Definitely Zillow brings it to a national level. It's not just local that these things are going on. And maybe the National Association of Realtors should be involved in having a deep heart-to-heart talk with other brokers about, do we really want to have dual agency be part of our accepted platform, or separately some brokerages allow it and some states allow it and others don't? Or do we want to make more of a stand because we actually do have a code of ethics, and if we're going to have one, it should have some bone in it, So maybe it's a good discussion. I don't know, Sam, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I think you're onto something there in terms of, people talk about raising the bar in real estate, et cetera, and even if we take dual agency out of it, which I'm in agreement with you personally on that. But even if you don't assume that agents are trying to do dual agency, maybe they're just trying to get more buyer leads. Maybe they're just trying to sell a home faster because it's easier on them. At the end of the day, none of those things are still good for their seller, which is who their client is. So I think that's why we get so much heated discussion, is anyone who's been in business in a long time has been in a situation where either the seller asked them to, or maybe it seemed like it would make sense to do a quick transaction with a pocketed buyer, and it's not that everyone is out there trying to do things wrong, it's just that there are easier ways to do it sometimes the wrong way than the right way, and this makes it much easier, and so you just kind of grease that slippery slide by having these kind of tools.
Right. All great points. Guess what? Our 20 minutes is already up again. Thank you so much. This was a perfect guest panel for this. I mean, you guys, Sam being here local, of course, for the Seattle perspective, but Teresa, with you living in a market where it was common for a period of time and that pocket listings are not strictly prohibited, gives another perspective there as well. We're going to have to wrap it up. Any last comments you guys want to make?
I want to hear Teresa read her article again. It was hilarious. Well written.
Yeah,
Thank you.
very well done, Teresa. And I love that graphic or that photo of the snake oil salesman in the front.
Well, you know, Inman, they pick the graphics. They do a good job with that.
Well, they did a great job.
Sometimes they blindside you with those, but they're usually entertaining.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks so much for joining us, and tune again next week. Rhonda, don't we have a homebuyer seminar coming up like right away?
Oh, like Saturday? We do, yes.
Yeah. Is that full yet?
Pretty close. I think we have room for just a few more people.
Okay. I was going to push it out on the webinar jam here today, but I just got so involved in the talk that I didn't. So anyway, please sign up if you're interested this Saturday at the Northeast Library from 11 to 4. It's free, and it gets you qualified by certification for some of the great state programs that you might be able to take advantage of. Anyway, thanks so much for joining us, and thank our guests, Sam and Teresa, and we hope to see you guys again soon. Bye.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.